Okay, let's take a look at this maybe somewhat challenging problem. The third term of a certain geometric sequence is 1/2, positive 1 over 2. The common ratio is known to be positive 3 over 5. Write the first 5 terms of this sequence. Okay, so here's what I've done. I have a listing or a template for our first 5 terms. We don't know the first term. We don't know the second term. We know the third term is 1/2. We don't know the fourth term and we don't know the fifth term. But we know the common ratio is positive 3 over 5. Is this enough information to go on to fill out all these first 5 terms? Yes, it definitely is. Here's why. Let's first work on finding the fourth term, okay? We know the third term. Let's work on the fourth term. Remember that in a geometric sequence, to find your next term, you simply take your current term and multiply by the common ratio, right? So to find the fourth term, what do we do? Whoops, let me try to get back up here. There we go. To find the fourth term, what do? We simply take the third term, right? We take the third term and multiply by our common ratio, which is 3 over 5, right? Okay, well, what is the third term? We know what the third term is, right? Let me make some room here. Erase, erase, erase. To find our fourth term, we are going to take our third term, 1/2, and multiply by our common ratio, 3 over 5. Well, we know how to multiply fractions, right? You multiply across the numerator, 3 times 1, and you multiply across the denominator, 2 times 5, right? Which becomes 3 over 10. All right, so we found our fourth term, haven't we? We found our fourth term to be positive 3 over 10. This isn't so bad so far, right? All right, let's make some more room to keep working. Let's make some more room. Okay, there we go. How do we find our fifth term? How do we find our fifth term? Fifth term, well, we take our fourth term, which we know is 3 over 10, right? And we multiply by our common ratio. So to find our fifth term, we're going to take our fourth term, 3 over 10, multiply by the common ratio, 3 over 5. We know how to multiply fractions. That's going to be 3 times 3 equals 9 over 10 times 5, 50, right? So we found our fifth term. Let me make our room here. We found out that our fifth term is positive 9 over 50. Positive 9 over 50. All right, so not most of, but half of our work is done. Okay, at least half of our work is done. Let me make some more room here. Now, here's where we have to think a bit more. Here's where we have to expend a bit more brain power, okay? Let's think about this. It was clear how to find our fourth and fifth term, given our third term, but how in the world can we find our first or second term? Okay, well, let's remember how geometric sequence works, right? If we know our first term, right? Well, if we know our first term, yeah, we get our second term, right? Second term, right? Our second term is our first term. Our first term times 3 over 5, right? And then our third term, right, is our second term, right? Our third term is our second term times 3 over 5. In the interest of space, let's employ some efficient notation here. Let's employ some efficient notation. We get rid of some of this stuff. Oh gosh darn it. There we go. Okay, efficient notation. There we go. Our second term, right, is our first term times our common ratio, 3 over 5. And our third term, right, is our second term times the common ratio, 3 over 5, right? So let's focus on this for now. Let's focus on this. Okay, so I'm going to erase this to focus on finding our second term, right? If our second term, so if our third term is our second term times 3 over 5, right? Well, we know our second term is, I'm sorry, we know our third term is 1/2, right? So we know that 1/2 equals our second term times 3 over 5, right? Okay, it looks like this isn't going to be too hard to solve, right? How can we get rid of that factor 3 over 5? We're going to multiply both sides by 5 over 3, right? We're going to multiply both sides by 5 over 3. Okay, that cancels out all this on this side, right? And now let me make some more room. Let me make some more room here. Make some more room to do this brief and simple calculation, right? Do this brief and simple calculation. So now we know that f of 2 equals 5 over 3 times 1/2, right? Which is 5 times 1 is 5 over 3 times 2 is 6. So we know that our second term is 5 over 6. All right, let's fill that in. Our second term is 5 over 6, okay? And now let's make some room. Whoops, let's make some room to get our first term to finish this all off, right? Get our first term. See, this isn't too difficult to do. What's our first term? Well, let's remember that our second term is our first term times the common ratio, right? Okay, so what's our second term? Our second term is 5 over 6, right? And that's going to equal f of 1, our first term, times 3 over 5, right? Okay, what do? We do the same thing. We're going to get rid of this factor 3 over 5 so that f of 1 is by itself, and we know what f of 1 is. We're going to multiply both sides by 5 over 3. Going to multiply both sides by 5 over 3. All right, let me box this, and then let's make some space to do this calculation. Make some space to do this calculation. Okay, what happens here? Factors of 5 and 3 cancel out on the right-hand side, so f of 1 is by itself. F of 1 equals what? It equals 5 over 3 times 5 over 6. We know how to multiply fractions. 5 times 5 gets our numerator 25. Over 3 times 6 gets our denominator 18. So our first term is 25 over 18. First term is 25 over 18. And there we have it. We can fill out the entire geometric sequence as long as we know one of the terms and the common ratio.